I guess we can all agree 20 agree. I guess we can all agree 2020 is kind of a bad year so far. Today I'm going to try to explain to you what's going on from a global perspective, how specifically it's affecting Canada. I'm going to mention Canada, that's where I am, but how it all fits into what's happening, and also how to prepare yourself for the rest of 2020, because you will need to prepare yourself. This is not done. This is just the start of everything that's going on. So let's get right into it. The first thing you need to understand is right now there's a whole bunch of tactics being aimed at you, at all of us, in an effort to wear us down. That is the first thing they're doing. So, COVID-19 hit and it had to be flatten the curve, stay home. All the healthcare workers out there saying, please help us, stay home. And just like that, they flipped it and they're like, oh no, now you can go protest. So last week they said, yeah, you can go protest. They haven't, in many parts of Canada, they haven't yet opened up the economy. So a lot of people are without a job still. But we are told that it's not safe to go visit your family or go to the mall or send your kids to school, but somehow it's safe to go protest as long as you wear a mask. So they're gonna flip-flop like this to make sure that you are confused. You have no idea what to expect. You don't know what's headed. So, we heard the oh, don't wear a mask, it's ineffective. And then we heard, oh, do wear a mask. All that kind of stuff. And they're doing this on a large scale with absolutely everything they can throw at us. So the COVID phase, that was about locking us into our homes, taking away the economy to a degree where it can't be repaired easily anymore. And this is where the bulk of your preparation, even if it's at the minimum some kind of mental preparation for the rest of the year, this is where the bulk of your preparation will be done, is the economic fallout from having shut down the economy for so long. That's the first thing. They are going after you to wear you down, because when you are worn down, you are much easier to control. So they're going to be able to tell you what to do, and you're so confused that you're just like, okay, yeah, I'll do it, So that by the time the vaccine comes, the COVID vaccine, you're going to be like, yeah, I just want to get back out there. I want to go see movies. I want to go to the rock shows or rock concerts. Just put the vaccine right in here, whatever. I don't know where it's going to go. But yeah, put it in me. I'm totally up for it. So that's the goal. They're going to wear us down until they get us into a place of complete compliance, and then they're just going to take full control. That's the goal. Just so you know, what's happening overall is Canada is headed down a communist path. So a lot of communists have already infiltrated many of our parliament. There's a lot of communists in our school system, all the way from kindergarten up to university. It's very, very much heavily infiltrated by communist ideology. And our healthcare, it's already fully socialized in Canada. People keep pointing to us as if we're some kind of a great healthcare entity, but we're not. Healthcare actually really sucks in Canada. You have to wait a long time. You have to wait to see specialists. If you're too old to get a treatment, you just don't get it. They just let you die. So it's not great. It's not a great healthcare system because it's socialized. So it's no longer about the patient. It's become about the administration. That's what happened in every socialized healthcare system out there. So measures to control us, measures to wear us down. The goal ultimately being take over full control of every aspect of your life, because Canada is aiming to be the next socialist state. That is a full-blown goal that we have. Now, you might have heard about globalism. Once Canada is fully socialist, then it will, fit itself right into the globalist agenda of socialism. Globalist is another word for socialism. It's like they're rebranded, like it's repackaged socialism and communism. It's now called globalism, but it's the same idea. It's all the same ideologies, and they're all going to use the same tactics. So they're going to make sure everybody's confused. You're going to be surrounded by people that have no idea that the media is an arm, it's a propaganda arm, so CBC, CTV, and they listen to those channels and actually think they're getting news. They don't realize it's been converted into a propaganda machine. And it's so frustrating to live amongst people like that, because you know so many people with good hearts, smart people, good intentions and everything, but they are victim of this brainwashing that we're subjected to. So all these well-meaning people are going to be around you. They are not going to believe anything is happening, anything bad, nothing nefarious. They actually believe the government is there to help us, when in reality the government is there to control us. It's not there to help us. There is no helping. That's what your family is there for. Your family wants to help you. They love you. That's their job. And the government is trying to usurp that family value and push it onto the government. So that's why they're attacking the family as well. That's the subject of a whole other video, how communists attack the family unit. So I'm going to stay away from that for now, just so I don't make a 1-hour video. But yes, well-meaning people all around you, these people are going to not understand what is happening, and it's going to be incredibly frustrating for you if you are red-pilled. So they don't know this has happened before, and they just won't be any help. We are going to go down further into the control realm. So the government is going to have more and more control. So think about that. Right after COVID, what is the first thing that the government did? Is they passed an unlawful gun grab. So in Canada, May 1st, they did that. And they didn't vote on it. It was just the Prime Minister decided we are going to take these guns now because there was a mass shooting. Now, just a little side note on that mass shooting. Isn't it kind of weird that Canadians out protesting for the shooting of somebody in the United States, but nobody's out here protesting for how the RCMP managed the whole, shooting that happened here in Canada? I mean, to me, it's both police forces are at fault, right, in these situations. But in Canada, for some reason, we're not offended by that. We're more offended by what's happening in a different country. I don't understand it, but okay, whatever. That was just a little side note. So the police, the RCMP handled this poorly. So a random guy goes on a crazy shooting, and the law-abiding citizens of Canada are now having to hand over their weapons. So that was another big event in 2020 that happened in Canada. And again, that is not by accident, it is by design. So under socialist regimes, you want a population that is completely disarmed. You don't want them to have any means of defending themselves, and that's why they're doing it. So you're going to say, but Julie, they didn't take away all firearms. Okay, they didn't. But that is going to be the next step after this. So get prepared in 2020 that we're going to see more legislation that's going to make it harder. It might spill into the next few years, but it's going to be one of the first things the government is going to try to do is to completely disarm us. Another thing they're going to do, the Canadian government is going to do, is delay as much as possible the impending economic crash that we are going to have. So we're going to have recession. They're going to print money to make up for it. In the last few weeks, every time the government has come out, so Trudeau comes out of whatever that house he's in, I've heard it's his cottage, and he gives these daily speeches. Every time he announces, $4 million for this, $4 billion for this other thing, he keeps giving money, and we don't have that money. So it's obvious it's being printed. It's money that they're just kind of generating. And as we move forward, we're going to realize that it's going to cause prices to rise. And with also the problem now that businesses are going to fail, it's going to become more dire. The economic situation in Canada is going to take years to fix itself. And it will only fix itself if it's allowed to go under free market capitalism. If it's hijacked by the socialist government, which is exactly what the Canadian government is trying to do right now. They are trying to hijack it to take over the economy. If they do that, then Canada is doomed. We're the next Venezuela. We're going to be like the USSR. We're going to be on the path of communism. So when Trudeau is doing this, printing this money, he really doesn't want you to know about this. He doesn't want us to find out. And anything that can happen to distract you is going to be, Trudeau is going to be like, yes, let's jump on that. And that is exactly what is happening with the Black Lives Matter protests / riots that are happening again in the States. Not our country. And I mean, God bless the United States. I pray for you. I hope that you survive this phase, because it's getting dire for you too in the United States, and I really feel bad for you. But in Canada, we don't have any racism problem, but it is a perfect tool. So ask yourself this: why is it all of a sudden that we're talking about racism in Canada? They were talking about climate change before, right? Remember? It was climate change, and we have to do something about it. The plastic straws, they have to go. Oh my gosh, plastic straws are going to destroy the world if we don't have this tax that they brought in, the carbon tax. Everything's going to disappear. The world's going to collapse. You know, climate change. That was the big thing. Then it flipped over to COVID. Then COVID flipped over now to Black Lives Matter, a racism problem, which in Canada we do not have. So if you think that there is any form of racism, like systemic racism or institutionalized racism in Canada, you have been fed the propaganda. And that is exactly what they want you to think. They want you to think there's a problem in Canada. There is no problem in Canada. People who think there is a problem in Canada with racism, put in the comments below an example of a law that we have in Canada, in our constitution, in our law books, that says this person of this race does not have the same rights as this other person of this other race, right? There is no institutionalized racism, and that's what institutionalized racism is. It means you have built your legal system to make sure that you apply racist values as a legal means of conducting your country. And that's not what we've done in Canada. We don't have it. So there is no institutionalized racism. And yes, there are isolated events of racist nature, because there's always going to be idiots, a-holes out there who are going to be racist. There is nothing you can do. If you think that you can actually stop every single person in the world from wanting to have this thought or that thought, including the racists who think, oh, I think this person of this other race is bad, you are delusional. There will always be racists. There will always be serial killers. There will always be psychopaths. There will always be crazy people. That is just part of the world we live in, because it's ingrained in human nature. Some crazy stuff happens to your brain and some people act like that. We cannot change it, and you have to just live with it. So what we do in Canada is we make sure that all the laws are equal for everybody, and whenever somebody says something racist, we call them out. So there is no racism, and I feel truly, truly bad for you if you actually think there is in Canada, because you have fallen prey to the propaganda machine. That's exactly what they want. So now we can focus on, the BLM problem from the States, but up here in Canada, it's because they want to divide us. The entirety of having Canada even remotely protest on behalf of people in the United States in the name of racism is purely designed to divide us. It's designed to make you think there's a problem in Canada, and that's the big thing now. We have to all of a sudden handle that right now in the middle of a pandemic. There's nothing more important now than handling this racist issue we don't have. It's because they want you to be weary. They want you to look at people of different races and go, well, should we have a problem? Because I hear there's racism. I don't see it, but I hear there's racism. Right? Are we supposed to have a problem? And then we put all of our attention to that, as opposed to putting our attention to the fact that they're collapsing our economy in front of our nose. And once the economy collapses, the plan from the government is going to be to take all these unemployed people and just scoop them up under the government agencies. And you're going to have crazy stuff like the Ministry of Contact Tracing. And then there's going to be like the contact tracing analysts who are going to be out there doing all this data research. Then there's going to be the vaccination crew, or the on-foot vaccination task force that are going to go to your neighborhoods and make sure that everybody's vaccinated and apply the penalties if you don't get vaccinated, because that is what they're working towards. They are working towards, I'm not sure if it's going to be contact tracing or vaccination that is going to be the catalyst into the total control of the government, but it's going to be something along those lines. I think it's going to be vaccine, but I can't be sure because I can't predict the future. I can only estimate based on what's happened in the past. So contact tracing, whatever, vaccination, whatever it is that they use, is because they're preparing that. So while they don't want you looking into that, they don't want you to focus on the fact that the economy is collapsing, that they're going to roll out further means of control over you, they're telling you that racism is a problem in Canada. And this whole thing, this BLM, Black Lives Matter issue up here in Canada, has it achieves two goals. It's really just two goals. So the first one is that distraction goal I was just talking about. But the second goal, and why they're grasping onto it right now in the middle of a pandemic, is because it is conditioning you. They are using this Black Lives Matter /protest /riot issue from the United States to condition you into how to behave. So they're saying you have to stay home because of COVID. Now, COVID's not done, but they're saying you now have the authorization from the government daddy to go and protest this. I hope you realize how this is being applied to you. You can't do this, but you can do that. There's a pandemic, you have to stay home, but the government is allowing you to come out now. And by being conditioned that way, when it comes back to, I think sometime in, I'm guessing maybe December, maybe a bit earlier, who knows, but there's going to be another phase of this lockdown. So they're going to say, now we have to lock you down and vaccinate you, or we have to lock you down for another 3-month period. And after that, they're going to fully take over the nationalization of the industries, but they're planning something like that. So it's coming down the pipeline, and they're distracting you and conditioning you by using the racism issue. And I really hope that a lot of Canadians are smart enough to be able to see beyond that and realize it's a US issue. We don't need to protest that up here. We don't have a racism issue. We need to focus on this COVID that we're told is so impossible, crazy, that we have to be locked down and shut down the economy, put millions of people out of work, destroy their lifelong business, and we have to do it. When they reopen, which they're starting to do right now, so today is June 8th, they're starting to reopen certain parts of the economy, and what's going to happen is a lot of the businesses might go in with the best of intentions. The ones that small mom and pop shops that can go back are going to go back, and maybe they're going to hang in there for like a month or two. But after that, they're going to have to close shop because the government will tell them, in order to be open, you have to follow this handbook of everything you're supposed to do. So there's already a committee working for the government, probably I don't know how to call them. I like coming up with these communist names for these departments they're going to make in Canada, but like the department or the handbook of post-COVID-19 operations in the retail environment. And there's going to be a ministry associated with that. And that job, the minister of that department is going to be responsible for overseeing that every restaurant / small business / garage / whatever is there, following the protocols of that handbook. So you have to have all clients, 2 meters apart, all customers in a single line file go through your store, all restaurants filled at only half capacity, plexiglass all over the place. You put your customers in a bubble when they enter your store, and then there's going to be a ministry responsible for making sure that's being enforced. So that's what we have to worry about, is how they're going to control. And this is controlling you when you go out. But once they bring in the vaccine is a serious deal, because they're going to use that to create the two classes of people. You know that in typical communist regimes that have been operational, so USSR and all their little satellites, and China and Cambodia, Vietnam, all of them, they have to have two classes of people that oppose each other in order for this to work. Now, they can't pull the racism card in Canada because we're too many multicultural whatever already, right? So it's going to be very tough, like to pit two races against each other. So it's obviously not going to be that in Canada. But what they're going to do is they're going to create two classes of the vaccinated and then the unvaxxed. So then the vaccinated people are going to be able to go on buses and, you know, conduct themselves as usual. And if you don't get the vaccine and you're considered an unvaxxed, you're going to be that second-class citizenry in Canada that is going to be having to go only on Tuesdays to the bank because whatever. Bank is terrible example because we have online banking. I haven't set foot in a bank in like 10 years, but I'm just saying for the, you know, like for this to happen, it's going to be something like, well, you can't drink at public water fountains. We've seen that one before, eh? If you're unvaxxed, you can't go out of your house at all, or you can't drive, or you have to have a driver's license with a special sticker on it that identifies you as one of those unvaxxed people. Crazy. That's what's going to happen. They need two classes to pit against each other, and they're going to make it so hard for the unvaxxed that even if you're gung-ho, you're like, I'm not going to get vaccinated, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to be like, no, not taking that vaccine, stick it to the man. Well, they're going to make your life so horrible that eventually half of those people are going to get vaccinated anyways. An example of where this exact kind of scenario has happened before, where you wear down a class of people to get them to comply, is when you look at the history of Islam, because they have the two categories in Islam as well. They have the dhimmi, which is the non-Muslim, and the Muslim. So just for the sake of the video, I'm going to call them Muslim and non-Muslim. We're going to ignore dhimmi for now. But the dhimmi would be made completely, he would be humiliated. He had to pay a very hefty tax. He had to shave his hair in a certain way, wear different clothes, walk on the other side of the street, get out of the way of a Muslim if a Muslim was coming down the street. These are all things that that the non-Muslims had to go through, and it was so humiliating and annoying that a lot of people in Muslim countries, Muslim majority countries, just been like, oh my God, just gonna convert to Islam. So it wasn't like, oh yay, Islam is such a peaceful ideology, I really want to join it. It was more like, oh, now I have to join it because I'm just so tired of shaving my head, or I'm tired of getting kicked when I go pay for my taxes, right? So that's legit what happened. And Muslims, if you're watching this, you can't hate on me. This is your Pact of Umar. Go look it up. This is what your leaders are telling you. This is the second caliph who said that. He put that pact in motion, and it's been carried through against the non-Muslims in Muslim majority countries since then. It's not Julie saying that. It's you guys' textbooks. So don't get angry at me. I didn't do it. Anyways, okay. So back to the best way to prepare. So get mentally prepared. Prepare yourself. Assume that even after they open up the economy, they are going to close it back down and lock you back in your house. If I'm wrong on that, apologies, so be it. But I would recommend that you prepare for that event. So make sure that your house, this is going to be your next opportunity when it opens back up to stock up on a certain essential things if you didn't do so the first time around. So toilet paper, guys, go get that. You know, get a bit of extra meat, stick it in your freezer, or buy an extra freezer if you have the means to do it. It's a good time to do it before the hyperinflation hits and before the government issues a second order to get locked in your house. Anything you need to do in your house, if your roof is leaking, plumbing issues, whatever, handle it now, because I don't know that we'll be able to handle it in the future. If you need permits to leave your house or something like that, I don't know. But just in case, I would recommend that anything like that is done now. Stock up on seedlings. So sorry, not seedlings, seeds. So tomato, lettuce, whatever. So that next summer you can grow, even if you have like a small patch of soil on your balcony in your apartment. Get ready for that so you can at least have a little bit of something to help out. Prepare mentally for being totally broke. I expect my investments to go down the drain, and I think if I'm prepared mentally, I find it's easier to absorb. Buy gold if you're able to. I know it sounds really stupid because it's like, but Julie, nobody has money in Canada. I know that. We've been giving it to the world, so we don't have any money. We don't have savings. Canadian citizens, we don't have savings, and trust me, I'm one like that either too. I mean, I don't have any savings either. But if you're able to buy gold, I would recommend you do that. Gold, silver, titanium. At least it's a bartering tool in the future if everything else collapses, because that won't lose value. So do what you can to prepare. Store up on the water too. That's another good one to have. Oh, and before I leave, I think you also need to prepare for cyclical power outages. So typically in socialist countries before us, they would have power outages on their electricity. So they knew if they were in this neighborhood that they could only run, the electrical appliances from like 12 to 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. So I don't know how it's going to all go for us, but be prepared for that, because I think as the government nationalizes over industries, so assume it takes over all the food chain, right? And then it takes over all of the power companies, because now, you have too many people out of work, the economy's collapsed, there is no more business to employ them. The government's going to say, well, I'm going to take over and we're going to nationalize this, we're going to save it. You're going to watch Air Canada. I heard that they're asking for a bailout. A full bailout is essentially nationalization, is when the government takes over the whole company and runs it. And if that happens, oh boy, are we ever screwed. So assume that they are going to nationalize power companies and potentially the food industry in Canada, and that would mean you're going to get power outages and you're also going to get food shortages. So be prepared for that. Really hope I'm wrong on that, but everything indicates that we are heading down the socialist path. And just look at the healthcare industry once again. That's a socialist healthcare industry. We're being touted in the world for how amazing it is, but it's not. So expect the same kind of real life application in everything else you own as you're seeing in the medical healthcare services environment right now, and think about how that's going to affect your life. So anyways, that's it for me. Rambled long enough. Rambled on. Oh, I'm done. See you guys later.